Hello and welcome to Traditional Painting the Digital Way. This is where I use digital painting apps to teach traditional painting techniques. In this video we're going to be starting a brand new painting series, and I had a request from one of my subscribers to show how to paint buildings. So I thought that I would use a unique subject to the region where I live in the Southwest United States, and one of these subjects is the old adobe mission churches. Now you can find them in the states of New Mexico, Texas, Arizona, California, just in the southwestern United States, and also in Mexico and in parts of Central America. And they're really pretty and really unique, so I thought that I would show you how to paint one of these. I decided to paint it at nighttime so that we could make some really neat special effects in the mission windows too. If you're following along traditionally, here's a list of all the brushes that I use to paint with. I use a 2-inch flat wash, a number 10 bristle brush, a number 8 filbert brush, a number 10 flat brush, a number 6 flat brush, a script brush, and a short script brush. For my painting surface, I like to use canvas board, and you can probably use an 11 by 14 size, 16 by 20, just whatever size you want. Just make sure that it's a rectangular shape. Here are the colors that I use for my acrylic paints. You can get most of these colors from Grumbacher Academy. I also use Liquitex and any kind that's really good. So we're going to go ahead and use the Infinite Painter app for Android. And I want to go ahead and start with making the night sky. So we want to use dark colors, and we can start out with phthalo blue or some ultramarine blue, and you can use your 2-inch flat wash if you're following along traditionally. And we can use alizarin crimson and some hooker's green. We want dark colors, but we don't want the sky to be black. Black will make your sky look too flat, and it just won't look right, because if you ever look at the night sky, it's not really pure black. It's really sort of deep blue, and when the moon's shining, it's light blue looking or light purple. So you want to go ahead and just add variations of these kind of colors for your night sky, and throw all the colors around in different spots. You don't have to make it a monotone. Don't pick just one color. Don't just make your sky blue. You want it to be varied in different spots, because that just makes your sky look richer and it gives more interest to your painting. And also there's galaxies and nebulas and things out there that sort of affect the way that the sky looks at night. And so go ahead and use kind of an X-shaped stroke to make your sky, and this will sort of blend out your paint. You can throw in little touches of white acrylic gesso in there if you're painting along traditionally, because we don't want it totally dark, and we kind of want the rich colors to show through. So the X-shaped strokes will help blend your sky and make it look smoother. Here I've added a little bit of texture to help the brushes in Infinite Painter look more traditional and more natural. And I'm using the Leo brush. You can use Leo brush, Angelo brush, the Vince brush, just some of the paint brushes there, the paint category that mimic acrylic and oil. And just go ahead and fill up the sky on the upper edge of your canvas. And here I'm just trying to sort of get them to blend together. We had a new beta released while I was doing this, and so I had to kind of tweak the brushes to get them to blend the way I wanted them to. So I was kind of trying to do that, and so I went ahead and went into the airbrush category and picked the Morondo brush and used it for some blending. I put the the tool on blend and set the Mirando brush pretty high in size to just give kind of a wide brush path, I guess you would call it a wide brush path, to really smooth out the sky here. And just kind of smooth out the brush strokes is what we want to do here. And then you can kind of go back a little bit with some of the dark blue color and just get it to where the strokes are pretty well blended in. And if you're doing this traditionally, you can just, the X-shaped stroke should make a pretty smooth blend on your canvas. So the next step is to make some stars, and there's several brushes in the airbrush category that you can use to splatter. I was trying to find one that's really good that would give me the effect that I wanted, and I finally picked the inky brush, and that gives you a really good splatter pattern for the stars. And I turned up the opacity and I also made them look wider. If you're doing this traditionally, take an old toothbrush, take a mixture of cadmium yellow light and put a lot of white acrylic gesso in it and thin it down with water and make it a really thin, soupy water mixture, and then take your your toothbrush and flick it on the canvas with your finger and just flick it all around and make random looking patterns, and you'll find that that makes pretty good stars. And then the next thing I wanted to do was put in the moon. So I'm using the guide in Infinite Painter for making circles, and you can adjust it. You can actually make ovals or you can make circles with it. And I want to make a crescent moon, so I'm just going to use one of the edges here, and I'm trying to adjust the size on there. And the moon will be a mixture of cadmium yellow light and white acrylic gesso again. We want just a pale yellow look. So I used the edge to make the crescent moon here, and I was trying to get something to fill in a little bit of the moon in the middle, and I finally just went back to the paintbrush category again and scaled them down very small and used the Vents brush here and just went ahead and added it in the middle to give the bulge here. And I also used the eraser to taper the ends on the crescent of the moon there. And then you make the little bulge in the middle. I was just freehanding it at this point. Now, if you're following along traditionally and you want a round circle look, use a bottle cap lid or just something round there. And just do on the outside of it with your script brush, and just go back and use that as your guide if you're doing this traditionally. Then I wanted to go ahead and smooth the edge out a little bit on the moon here, and so I'm using the guide, and I'm going to use the eraser and erase that off a little. And if you're doing this traditionally, just use the edge of a bottle cap again to draw the outer line on your crescent moon. And also be sure to erase the stars that are next to your crescent moon, because the full moon is still there, but you just see it in shadow. So we don't want the stars shining through there. We want it to look like the presence of the moon is there. And then I went ahead and used the Mirando brush to give a slight glow to the moon here and make sure that the opacity is really low. And you can use a dry brush technique if you're following along traditionally. Use your filbert brush, just lightly brush on a little bit of color, but not very much paint. And then the next step that we want to do is to add in some thin wispy clouds. We don't want it to totally cover the moon. We want to make it look like the moon is peeking out from behind the clouds. And also it would be best if you put it on a separate layer from the moon. Otherwise you can really mess up. And if you mess up on the clouds, then you get your moon all messed up. So always try to put things on separate layers if you can. And I'm always forgetting this, but I always pay for it when I forget. So make sure you remember to get a separate layer for separate elements like this. And so I just want kind of a real thin look to the clouds. And I'm using the Morondo brush to get to lower the opacity on the clouds. We want the moon to peek out. We don't want to cover the whole moon. So I just went ahead and used dioxazine purple and with a lot of white. And then I want to go ahead and sort of make a zigzag shape across the sky. I decided that I had too many clouds there, so this is why you use the separate layer, because you can go back and erase down the clouds and adjust the shapes here. And if you do this traditionally and you get too much clouds, when working with acrylic, you can grab a wet paper towel and you can smudge a bunch of the paint off, and it'll work that way. So then I finally got the shape that I wanted, and I'm going to go back with the Leo brush, and you can use your script brush if you want to, or your number 6 flat brush, and just kind of make little clouds here, little zigzag shapes. You kind of want to make them zigzag across the sky. Just give it an interconnected look so that it makes the picture look better. The composition is better because your eye flows through the Z shapes across the sky and your clouds. And that just helps with your composition and keeps the viewer's eye on your picture. So you can blend it a little bit, smudge it with your finger if you're working traditionally. Just kind of keep it opaque and thin and transparent. So this is the end of part 1 of our Midnight Mission series. And in the next part, we're going to go ahead and work on the distant mountains in the background and add a little bit more touch-ups to the sky. So thanks everybody for watching. Thank you so much for your support. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments down below, and I will catch you later.